What's at stake is the client's dream, their assets, their security. What was at stake in 2008 when they got completely wiped out? People thought they were going to retire in 3 years. Now they don't know if they'll ever retire. What's at stake is their life, summed up in numbers. It's a never-ending challenge, and you'll never know if you win until you're at the end. When I was a kid and went to school, math was just a natural for me. I never had to study. It was so easy, it was simple for me, and I loved it. So my father sort of drafted me into his supermarket business when he bought a supermarket when I was 17 years old. So I took over the business for him, actually grew the business for 13 years at internal growth rate, 40% a year. And then, of course, we sold, and I managed my family's finances and my father's retirement from that point on. The story was my father, he had a pretty good nest egg built, and it was time for him to retire, and he wanted me to buy his supermarket from him, and I didn't want to live in Ohio for the rest of my life and send him checks in Florida. So I took off to Hawaii, and my dream at that time was, I actually wrote the business plan to put Navitec, is what it's called today, in the water. I wanted to joint venture with Stephen Louis, Pacific Marine, and First Family Travel, which was United Airlines, and then Japan Airlines. So we had all of that done, and I had the first fine dining dinner cruise in Hawaii, in Waikiki. So it was really not working while I spent a good 6 months of my life to get this thing going. So I was married at the time and had 2 kids, and I didn't have the financial wherewithal to continue waiting until it got put in the water. So I had to walk, and one of my attorneys made a recommendation to me with one of the guys at Lehman. That's how I got in with Lehman Brothers. It's relationships, you're building relationships, but the bottom line in investment banking is numbers win. And I was fortunate enough that they spent a good $250,000 on every person they invested in, and sent me off to Los Angeles for 6 weeks in training. And when I came back, all I had to do was apply what I was taught. I was the #1 producing broker in 13 western states for Lehman. I think the biggest challenge that anyone in my position had to overcome was seeing the stock market fall out of bed in 2008, just 2 years ago. I'll never forget to this day that my best friend in New York, who brokered business for the best of the best, the Renaissance capital of the world, SAC Capital, called me up that day. And that day, by the way, is when the credit markets fell out of bed, Bear Stearns and Lehman. And the first thing he said was, "Life as we know it is over." And he knew that I'd been telling him that for the last 2 or 3 months. And I'll never forget to this day when that happened. So it was, okay, it's time to figure out what we're going to do next for a living, how we're going to survive. But the biggest impact it had is never become complacent, ever. It makes me feel pretty good these days because of all of the experience I've acquired in the last 25 years. My experience in life and in the financial markets is anytime there's uncertainty, there's a lot of opportunity. So there's a lot of positive things going on, I think, for the future that create investment opportunities that you can't imagine. I call myself a doctor of finance. You go to the doctor, you need some help medically. You come to a financial professional, you need some help financially. You don't know, with all of the tax reform and everything else that's going on, that's my job, that's what I keep up with. I'm the doctor of finance. And if you need to be sent to a specialist, I know which specialist is the best for you. I don't look at it just as managing money and whoever makes the most money wins. That's not at all it. Because there's so many things involved in somebody's life that making the most money isn't what their needs are. They need to have assets mature at a certain point to pay for education or whatever else their goals are. And the one thing that I can guarantee you will change no matter how much I sit there and talk to someone is change. Change happens in everyone's life, and you got to be able to address that change and match their needs to what their investments are at a given point in time. My finance professor taught me it's not about how much money you make, it's how much money you keep that matters. Until anyone really sits down and plans, they don't know where they want to be. And when they do, and they know where they're going, people's lives are a lot happier. Now tell me the answer to the question again.